Welcome back. This is the Divine Now. Thanks for joining me today. And it's been a couple days since I've posted anything. Um, I don't like to post just to post. I really want to be inspired when I share my thoughts about life and meaning and purpose. And again, this is just my story, my experience that I'm sharing with you as I journey through this thing we call life. But I've been thinking about people that I love and care for and things that they are personally walking through. And in so many ways, the best I can be for them is a friend, a voice, sort of like a support system, if you will, for the emotional self. Because I don't have any answers. Like, I can't really answer the question as to why someone's best friend died or why someone has to walk through cancer, why so many things take place. I don't know. And I used to think I had to know. I used to think that I have to have an answer. There has to be a reason. And oftentimes we even say to people, God God has a reason for why He's allowing this to take place in your life, um, and that's a pretty giant statement. God has a reason, uh, because we want to know what the reason is, and I've come to the understanding that maybe there could be a reason, but I don't think that we're going to find out the reason for some things in this space of time where we live in this three-dimensional space. And I think why is really a wasted question because we can spend a lifetime trying to unpack why. A dear friend of mine um, is going through something very difficult now and suffering a loss, the loss of her best friend and her father. And she's hurting, and it feels like a freight train has hit her soul, and she is trying to find a way to recover. I can't explain to her why her dad died. I don't know. And what I do know is that in this life, we experience things that are good, that are bad, that are sour, that are sweet. And we don't know why we have we experience the bitter and the sour. We just know that we experience them. But I do think that sometimes we have this idea, we have this notion that something shouldn't happen. And I think that's where things get a little bit wonky for us. Well, my dad shouldn't die. I shouldn't be going through cancer. Why am I going through this? My mom shouldn't be experiencing this, not mine. I shouldn't be losing my job, or I shouldn't be having this pain in my life. And I ask the question, well, why shouldn't we? When you think of all the people around the globe who are experiencing some horrific things in the world that we can't even begin to explain. I saw a commercial the other day from I hadn't seen this commercial in years, but it was this mission, this mission, the Mercy Cruise mission, where these doctors go around the world trying to giving performing surgeries on people who have some of the most horrific physical um, deformities. Um, things going on with their faces and huge growths on their neck. Just the most. I mean, visually, it's horrifying. And you ask yourself the question: okay, if there's a reason for everything, well, why is that child born with half a face? That makes no sense to me. Why? Why would God want that? And why only some people getting help? some people getting assistance. We don't have any answers for questions like that. I think Mother Teresa, being the person that she was, uh, she saw suffering in ways and touched suffering in ways that most people will never touch suffering. You know, caressing dying children, um, you know, serving people who other people would consider forgettable, a waste of time. But what I didn't know until I read several years ago, that Mother Teresa also questioned God. For 50 years, she walked with an inner sadness because there were so many questions she couldn't answer. For 50 years, this quiet saint walked around with this load of questions, this agony inside her soul, wanting God to answer, and no answer ever came. She held on. She walked with her faith. She held on to her faith. But there were moments that she admitted that she even questioned the very existence of God Himself. This is where our questions can take us and our agony can take us to the point where we feel even afraid to say what we feel. I mean, these are things that we find out years later in a book about Mother Teresa. But as she was walking through this, she didn't divulge this to the world and say, oh, sometimes I question the very God that I'm serving. She didn't acknowledge that to the world, but nonetheless, it was real. Here's my question, or here's my thought. What if there are no answers on this side of things? And what if there never will be? And what if the best we can do is embrace the moment as it is and find the gift that life gives us, the gift that suffering offers us, which is the resolve to just be with it, to sit with it, to allow it to be what it is without having any answers. And somehow giving ourselves permission to be okay with not knowing. What if when someone that you care for leaves and is no more, you can make peace with the joy that they gave you in this life. And whatever the next life is or looks like, if there is a next life, when it when we get when we see that other side, maybe that's where we find our answers. Maybe it's not here. Maybe the answer is on both ends of infinity, where everything began some 14 billion years ago, and that energy sort of sparked off creation until the end, where the universe continues to expand into infinity. On both ends of the beginning and the end, there's infinity. And somewhere on either side of that are our answers. Not within this space we call time and matter. And what if we made peace with that, as opposed to struggling for answers that we'll never, ever find here? So when I'm with my friends who are suffering and walking through, what if my call is to just be an agent of love and presence? What if my call is to not walk away from them when they're suffering, like Job's friends did? Job's friends, when Job was suffering because Job was wealthy and he was righteous and he lived a perfect life, we look at the story and God has this sort of dueling match with Satan, this contest with Satan. Well, look at my servant Job. I bet you can't get to him. And Job says, well, I'll tell you what. Well, God says to the devil, let's make this bet. I bet you can't throw Job off his game. He's always going to trust me. And devil says, okay, well, let me have everything he has. Let me have his possessions. Let me have his family. Let me have all his stuff, and let's see what Job does. Now, personally, I don't believe this is a. I believe this is a story. This is because that's pretty cruel for God to make a bet with the devil to test Job. I mean, who knows? I have no idea. But this is the story. So Satan takes Job through all this loss and pain and grief and upset, and Job never once curses God. Even as Job's friends say, um, you just need to curse your God and die because your God is silent. He doesn't give answers. But Job held to his faith. It's mind blowing to me. What if what if faith and friendship sort of kiss each other in the midst of suffering? What if when people are walking through their their moments of woe, we have the opportunity to be a presence, to be love, to be there, to not be what Job's friends were and curse the person that's suffering, but what if we stood in the gap and stayed until that season passes? I don't know. It's just something that I'm thinking about. So, what is this divine now moment about? Life, hurt, woe. Are there answers? I don't know. I don't know if there are. I don't know them. But I do know this, that life is much sweeter when we can walk through this place with a friend. So be a friend. You don't have to have the answers. You don't have to give cheap cliches and cheap promises. You don't have to give some type of theological report as to why suffering takes place. Just be present and let your love tell a better story. Namaste.